The Miami Dolphins have had a very busy free agency, losing some key players as well as adding some very good players. I'm Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and I'm here to break it all down. Starting with the key departures, we all know the big names that the Miami Dolphins lost, starting with Christian Wilkins going to the Raiders on a $27.5 million deal.
Damn!
Shout out to Christian Wilkins, so happy he got his bag, but I'm honestly happy the Dolphins didn't pay that kind of price for him. Next player, Robert Hunt, went to the Panthers on a 5-year, $100 million deal. Once again, another guy getting his bag. Very happy he did, though. Great human, great player, but just out of the price range of the Dolphins, especially at that price. I'm glad the Dolphins did not make that move. Next player, another 2020 draftee, Brandon Jones, getting signed to the Broncos on a 3-year, $20 million deal. And when I saw that, I was very surprised. I thought he was a guy that the Dolphins very well could have brought back, and I expected him to make $2 to $3 million a year, and he went out and basically tripled that. So once again, happy for Brandon Jones to get his bag, but once again, that's a price I wouldn't want the Dolphins to pay. So that is what it is. Andrew Van Ginkel, this one hurt a little bit, going to the Vikings on a 2-year, $20 million deal. Good for him. Once again, great human. Steep price, but almost a price I may be willing to pay, but wish Gink nothing but the best. Raekwon Davis on a 2-year, $14 million deal with the Colts. Once again, a big price I was not expecting for Raekwon Davis, but once again, good for him. And last on this list is Deshaun Elliott, signed to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 2-year, $6 million deal, which is a pretty solid deal for the caliber of player Deshaun Elliott is. But in total, those players on a per year basis, and I know guarantees are the main thing for NFL, but just to keep it simple, the per year cost of all of those players signing elsewhere is $74.5 million that the Dolphins did not pay, and I honestly think they made the right decisions, as I'm going to break down the new additions to the Miami Dolphins and their price tags, starting with center Aaron Brewer, signed to a 3-year, $21 million deal. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding him. A lot of what we're hearing from Titans fans is that he was a great run blocker, bad pass blocker, and that might be the case. I've seen some good pass blocking reps from him, and I think labeling sacks on centers can be a little bit misleading. I'm not going to say it is or isn't. I haven't watched the film, but I'm not concerned. A lot of people were critical of Connor Williams when he got signed to the Dolphins, and he turned out being one of the best centers in all of football. And I think this is a perfect fit in terms of the run game perspective. Just watching some of the film of him in open space, it's a perfect match in terms of the run game. Now, once again, there is that question in pass blocking area. On to the next player, and what probably my favorite signing, super underrated, is Janu Smith to a 2-year, a little bit $10 million deal. The thing with Janu is I knew he was a good athlete. I wasn't sure about his ability to block, but I just kind of viewed it in those two buckets. But after watching some of his highlights, that man not only is extremely explosive, I think he had the fastest tight end time last year, he's very physical in how he runs with the football. I mean, he bounces off tackles, he fights for first downs, and that's something we've been missing from the Dolphins since probably Jarvis Landry. At the tight end position, I couldn't tell you how long it's been. Obviously, Alec Ingold provides some of that, but Janu Smith is a dog. Great athlete, can break tackles, and can also run block, so it's a perfect combination in terms of a tight end in this scheme. We signed another tight end, Jody Fortin from the Chiefs. Everything I've heard about him is he's a very high upside guy. He just hasn't been able to put it together. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, but he's got a lot of potential. He's a big body and good athlete, so could be a red zone weapon or could end up getting cut. The various different paths for him are there, but I wish him nothing but the best. On to the linebacker position, Dolphins add Jordan Brooks to like a 3-year, $27 million deal, and a very good player. I know it's similar to Aaron Brewer. Seahawks fans come at him a little bit. In terms of he's a good player, but he sucks in coverage, and then you hear people say, if you say he sucks in coverage, you don't know ball. So there's a little back and forth going. I think why he gets labeled bad in coverage is because some of the tasks he was asked to do in coverage are extremely difficult for a linebacker that maybe only Fred Warner can actually do. So the fact that he's in those positions, though, shows the trust the defense has in him. But you're inevitably going to let up plays if you're covering a wide receiver in the slot, running down the seam, and having to carry him down the middle. You're going to let up plays. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's my perception on that criticism of Jordan Brooks. But overall, sounds like an absolute dog. He's a year removed from the ACL injury now, so so hopefully will improve from what was shown last year. But he's a tackle machine, physical, 3-down linebacker at the middle of Miami's defense to pair with David Long. I think it's a great pairing. And then Anthony Walker signed to a $1.4 million deal. He's just a run-stuffing linebacker, good depth, solid player, similar to Fortson. Couldn't stay on the field consistently, but seems like he's lined up to be Miami's third linebacker, and I think he'll have a ton of success in that role. On to the cornerback position, kind of a special team signing. Dolphins signed Saron Neal from the Bills. Special teams ace. I've seen some tremendous pictures of him as a gunner and the amount of attention he requires. Seems like a very good special teams player. On to the big cornerback signing, Miami Dolphins signing Kendall Fuller to a 2-year, $16 million deal. So steal of a deal for the caliber of player Kendall Fuller is. A very solid, sturdy cornerback that you can rely on to do his job at a high level. I think PFF had him graded 8th in the league. I'm not big into PFF grades, but just to throw that out there. And he's been very durable, knock on wood, but he's been able to stay on the field quite consistently and has done a solid job. Very good signing for especially only $8 million a year. On to the edge position, the Dolphins picked up Shaq Barrett with a contract worth up to $9 million, so we don't know the full details. I highly doubt it's $9 million. It's probably closer to 6 or 7, but Dolphins needed depth at the edge position, and they go out and get it. And hopefully we'll get Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb back sooner than later, and we don't really have to rely on much more depth outside of Shaquille Barrett because the Dolphins don't have it, but that should be addressed hopefully in the draft or the rest of free agency, as there's plenty of time to go. I'm just recapping week 1. And then onto the safety position, the Dolphins getting the steal of free agency, signing Jordan Poyer to a 1-year, $2 million deal. Now, it's not necessarily the biggest deal. He's like 33 years old, so he's old. But as a third safety or third safety, I really like the deal for the Dolphins, but I would like to see them add at the position. And then onto the defensive line, they signed Neville Gallimore from the Cowboys on a $1.8 million deal, and then bring back Benito Jones, who's on the Dolphins, went to the Lions, and now is back on the Dolphins. He's a really good run stuffer. Contract on him is yet to be out, but in total for all of those additions is $43.6 million. So that is about $30 million cheaper than the players that we lost, and we're not done yet. We're going to keep signing people. It's a long road of free agency. We get more cap room post June 1st. So I expect the Dolphins to not be done. They have some holes I'm going to address a little bit later, but I think that epitomizes why I think Chris Grier is doing so good currently, is because we didn't overpay. Obviously, you want to keep your homegrown talent, but guess what? They hit the open market and they got bags. Good for them. But the Dolphins then pivoted and then kind of value shopped. We got good quality players at a good price. We didn't have to overpay extreme amount of money for players. We got quality players to help build out and lengthen this team, because guess what? If we brought all those guys back, what are we doing? We're just running back the same team as last year. Obviously, there's more continuity and growth within scheme, but at the end of the day, you kind of do need to mix things up. The Dolphins go out and let 6 key players walk, but then they bring in 7 to 8 at a cheaper price. Then you have more money to extend some of your own players or acquire more players, or just keep yourself more sustained for success, because you're not handing out massive contracts. Obviously, we already have some massive contracts given out, and you're kind of limited in how many you can do. So I'm very happy with the approach Chris Grier has taken to, instead of dropping huge bags to retain some of those guys at an overpriced price, bringing in some fresh blood that are very good prices for the quality of players that they are. So I'm a big fan of these moves. I'd give Chris Grier an A+ on how he's handled this free agency. He's perfectly pivoted from big ticket items to filling out the roster, and now to the point where the Dolphins, in my opinion, really have 4 holes on the roster, and some of them are kind of depth. So the starting one is obviously offensive guard. The Dolphins at minimum need 1. I would like 2, but I would feel comfortable with Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, and a draftee fighting for a starting guard position. But ideally, you sign 2 guards and then you let that be its own thing. But a guard or 2, wide receiver depth, as we really only have Tyreek and Jalen Waddle under contract, and then some guys that were on the practice squad. Dolphins just need to get some depth at that position, but you can get that for league minimum, and I expect that to come in the coming weeks. Safety, in my opinion, obviously with Jordan Poyer being so old and having durability issues, would like to see a third safety, especially in a defense that's going to rely on 3 safeties, as that's what Coach Anthony Weaver ran in Baltimore. And then the last position of need for the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion, is depth at the edge position. Just one more, just to feel a little bit more comfortable with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb coming back. I would like to have 4 total with them too, because you need to give those guys time to fully become themselves again. So Shaquille Barrett's a good start. I would like to see them add 1 more guy, and it could be a very low-level free agent, or it could be a first-round pick. That can be addressed in many different ways, because we obviously have the draft now. We have a first-round pick finally, so I love how Chris Brewer has positioned the Miami Dolphins. I think we're set up for success, not only this year, but in the coming years. Comment your thoughts on this free agency down below. I'm a big fan, as I gave it an A+. Give your grade in the comments below. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and until next time, fins up.